All right, welcome back to Mr. P Helps with Precal, Unit 3, Topic 1, Lesson 7. Solving trigonometric equations. We'll start with the basics in this video, and then we'll do more problems in the next one. Finding the angles for the given trig value. So sine of theta. So this really uses your knowledge of what we've been doing up to this point. So when does sine equal 1 is the question. So sine of what angle would that be? So remember that sine, the highest it could possibly be is 1, and that's when it has a height of 1. In this case, would be y over the radius. So in this case, this would be when it's 90 degrees or when it has been 270 degrees. Because if you think about the unit circle, so this point right here is 1, 0. This is 0, 1. That's cosine comma sine. This is negative 1, 0. And this is 0, negative 1. So the only time, I'm sorry. I put 270. So the only time it's going to be positive 1 is when it's at 90 degrees, cosine comma sine. Cosine, when is it going to be negative 1? That would be here at 180 degrees. And when is sine of theta going to be equal to 0? Sine is 0 right here and here, so it's two places. So that would be at 0 degrees or 180. When is cosine going to be equal to 1? That would be right here at 0 degrees. And when will sine of theta be equal to negative 1? Sine will be negative 1 right here, which is at 270. When is cosine of theta equal to 0? So cosine is 0 at these 2 points right here. So that is at 90 degrees or 270. Two answers. When will sine be equal to 2? So that's never. That's undefined. And what is cosine going to be? That's also undefined as well. So the reason why is because sine and cosine are always going to be between negative 1 and positive 1. It's never going to be more than 1, nor is it ever going to be less than negative 1, because it can't be bigger than the hypotenuse, because sine is, so if you think about the right triangle, sine would be the height over the hypotenuse, and the height can never be bigger than the hypotenuse, so therefore it's always got to be a fraction in between. Unless it's going straight up, then the height and the hypotenuse are exactly the same thing. That's the only way it can be 1, is when you're going straight up. Otherwise, the height's got to be a fraction of that hypotenuse. Now, the same thing goes for the width as well. All right, so now these are those special angle pairs, those special angles that you have memorized. So sine of 30 is 1/2, and then sine of 45 happens to be square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 45 is also square root of 2 over 2. Tangent of 30 is square root of 3 over 3. Now, for these over here, then you really just have to flip them around. So cotangent of x, cotangent is the reciprocal of sine, so that's going to be undefined. And so is, using here. So here, tangent of x at 0 degrees, undefined. And then also undefined will be sine, which becomes cosecant. So that will also be undefined. And so let me just link these up so I don't have to really think about them so much. And this is going to be 1, because if you take 1 over 1 and you flip it, still 1. Okay, so this one's going to be 2, which means this one right here is also going to be 2. And flip, square root of 3 over 2 becomes 2 times the square root of 3 over 3. And because that's the reciprocal of this is going to be the same thing here, 2 times the square root of 3 over 3 here. Square root of 2 over 2, remember that gets flipped to 2 over square root of 2 over 2, multiply both top and bottom by square root of 2, and now you got 2 times the square root of 2 over 2, and those cancel out to just square root of 2. So that's square root of 2, and so is this. Square root of 3 over 3, just the reciprocal is, oops. I put things in the wrong spot. See, I'm not used to it normally being set up like this. So square root of 3 over 3 is the same thing as square root of 3. That's the reciprocal of. This turned into this. That's right. This turned to here. Just making sure everything is right. This one linked up to here. This one links up to here. And this one needs to be fixed. The reciprocal of 1 is still 1. This does not link up to this. This links up to this. So that's 2 times the square root of 3 over 3, and square root of 3 is the reciprocal of square root of 3 over 3. Just like 30 and 60. Tangent of one is the other. Okay, so cosine of this will be undefined. This is 0, and this 1 stays 1, like such. Okay, solve for the following. So this is my last slide, and before I really get into the really solving equations, well, you're going to solve these equations just like you do any other equation, but in the end, you're going to get answers that look like this, and then that's going to tell you what the answer is going to be. Now, this is between 0 and 360, which means we're talking about degrees. When is cotangent of theta equal to 1? So now, first thing I would do is I would change this to reciprocal. So that's tangent of theta also equals 1. So when does tangent of theta equal 1? So I'm going to need that all students take calculus. So tangent is positive in both quadrants 1 and 3, which means there's going to be 2 answers here. So we know tangent of 45 degrees is 1, or we also can have a 45-degree angle in here in this quadrant, so that's 180 plus another 45 makes 225. All right, so when is tangent of theta equal negative square root of 3? So tangent would be negative in these 2 quadrants, and we know square root of 3 is the same thing as 60. So 60-degree angle in the second quadrant would be 180 minus 60 would be 120 degrees, or 60 degrees away from 360, which would be 300 degrees. All right, so secant is the reciprocal of cosine, and that would be cosine equals 2. Yeah, flip that around. When does cosine equal 2? That is undefined. That is never. Can't. Sine. When is sine going to be? That's also undefined. Sine can never be more than or less than negative 1. Less than negative 1 or more than 1. Move myself over here. So now cosine of theta, negative. Now, first of all, it's cosine, which means it's negative, which means it can't be here, can't be here. It's got to be in quadrants 2 and 3 because it's negative. And cosine of square root of 3 over 2 happens to be a 30-degree angle. So 30-degree angle here in quadrant 2. 180 minus 30 makes 150. And then 180 plus 30 makes or 210 degrees. All right, so cosine of 1/2. So that would be a 60-degree angle as well. Oh, did I do this one wrong? I think I did. So cosine of theta is equal to, let's see, sine of cosine is 1/2. Cosine of 60. Sorry. All right, so this was 30 degrees, and it had to be in second or third. So I believe I had the right answers there. So that was both 150 or 210. When is cosine? So this is 60 degrees. Cosine is positive in these 2 quadrants. So at 60 degrees or 300, because that's in the 4th quadrant. It can also be positive for cosine. Cosecant, which means flip that, so that would be sine of theta would be equal to 1/2. So when is sine 1/2? That's a 30-degree angle. Sine of 30 is 1/2. But sine can be both in the first and second quadrant. So either 30 degrees or 180 minus 30 would be 150 degrees, would also be positive. And then cotangent is the same thing as tangent of theta equals negative 1. Tangent being negative 1. Now tangent is negative in these 2 quadrants right here. So that's a 45-degree angle here and 45-degree angle here. 180 minus 45. So that's 135. And 45, so 360 minus 45 happens to be 315. Right? Yeah. There's your 2 answers. All right, so one more slide. I should have plenty of time. And this time, it says between 0 and 2 pi, which means I'm going to use radians this time. So I'm doing the exact same skill, just using radians. Cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. So this would be, so let me just put this. Cosine is positive in these two quadrants, so it can either be 45 degrees. Ooh, no, sorry. It can either be pi over 4, or it can be, so that's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. So 7 pi over 4 would be the two answers for this. All right, so tangent is -1. So tangent is 1 right here and also here. So we're looking at here, and here are the two answers. 1/4, 2/4, that's 3/4 pi. Or 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4 pi. Yes, that's right. Because these two would be positive. And sine of x is equal to -1/2. So sine of 30 is 1/2, but it's got to be down here and here 30. So that's 1/6 more than 6/6. So that would be 7/6 pi. So that's 1/6 more, or 1/6 less than 12/6, which would be 11/6. Those are your two answers. That's 1/6 away from 2 full circles and 1 more sixth, 130 degrees more than halfway around. All right, so secant is this. So that would be the same thing as cosine equals square root of 3 over 2, right? Because that's the reciprocal. This is the reciprocal of this. Yeah. And I asked myself, what cosine of what angle is square root of 3 over 2? And that happens to be 30. So that's a 30-degree angle. And then it's cosine, and it's positive, which means it's either first or fourth. So it's either here or here. So it's either pi over 6 or 11 pi over 6. These two answers. Okay, tangent of x is undefined. When is tangent undefined? When the y has no height, basically. So when it has when the y has over no x. So tangent is y over x. So that would be both here and here. So that would be pi over 2 or 3 pi over 2. Because right here it has a height of 1, but it would be over an x of 0, which wouldn't make any sense. That'd be undefined. Cosecant, which means sine of x equals 0. All right. So sine of 0. Remember, this point right here is 1, 0. So that's not it, because that's a sine. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That is it. And then this will be -1, 0, which means these are the two places where it has a sine of 0. So that would be at either 0 pi or pi. So basically, or 2 pi or 3 pi. So from 0, I guess, or 2 pi. 0, 2, oh, not including 2 pi, sorry. All right, just these two answers. All right, and that's it. And on the next video, we'll actually do some solving with actual equations, where we solve the equation and then do the same steps that we just did in this video. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful day.